Part 16. The vicious female supporting character's character collapsed after her voice was eavesdropped. Author, R.O. Wich Jong Word. Chapter 151. Chapter 151. For the rest of my life, the wind and snow will be you, and the plainness will be you. Sunian knew what Lee Baiken had planned. Blocked all her sources of management and wanted to make a fool of herself, haha. Sunian then placed an order online and paid extra. Sunian soon received the express message. Then she solemnly appeared in front of Lee Baiken holding the box. Baiken, you have been working my affairs during this period. I can see it in my eyes. This is the gift I prepared for you. Do you like it? Lee Baiken looked at the box. He had previously ordered Josu to keep an eye on Dion Sunian's movements. But since yesterday, he has received no report from Josu at all, saying what auction house Sunian bought, what private seller he bought, or what high consumption he had. What about this thing? Lee Baiken raised his eyes and saw Sunian looking so excited. Suddenly I felt that this box could not be opened. Is this with your own money? Sue's thoughts are like pounding garlic. Baiken, why do you look like that? Don't you even want to open it? I thought you told me so many times these days that you were looking forward to my gift. This was my own choice, but I picked it for a long time. After a long time, Lee Baiken sneered a few times when he heard this. If he hadn't heard her voice yesterday, he might have believed it. This guy shouldn't think that my gift is harmful, so he's afraid, right? Lee Baiken's body stiffened. Wow, I discovered the shortcomings of this stubborn dog licker again. He is actually timid. Mo Bao is not timid at all. You must know that Mo Bao is very courageous. It seems that this advantage is still with me. I used to think that the reason why Mo Bao was so good was because his father was a domineering president, but now it seems that, obviously all the advantages are inherited from me. Lee Baiken immediately said, how could it be? Since it is your intention, how could I not like it? He felt that he was making too much of a fuss. What can this Sunian buy? Lee Baiken immediately began to open the gift box. The sunlight hit Lee Baiken's sculpture-like profile, as if his whole body was coated with light. He opened the gift box with pianist's fingers. Next moment, music is playing at the top of a company with a market value of 100 billion, where every inch of land is precious. For the rest of my life, the wind and snow will be you, and the plainness will be you. In the box, there is a 520 made of roses. Visibly cheap. Ha 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 ha, don't you just want to cut off my finances? The value of this gift is as high as 25. I can take out 25 no matter what. By the way, it is said that there is a 5 yuan cashback for good reviews. I will definitely write a 500-word positive review to the store later. Sunian was in a better mood, so he could talk nonsense better. I think you have everything, Baiken. If I give you something bought with money, it will be an insult to you to a certain extent, and in my eyes, our relationship has just eased. If I insult you with money at this time, you will definitely feel that I am not sincere. In this case, our relationship may be back to the original point. A gift of RMB 25 and a cash rebate of RMB 5 for positive reviews. Lee Baiken now regrets killing Sunian's economy. Especially this thing, what's going on? Why is this thing always singing the phrase for the rest of my life, the wind and snow will be you, and the plainness will be you? This thing can't just sing this line, right? End of this chapter. The vicious female supporting character's character collapsed after her voice was eavesdropped. Author, R.O. Wich Jong Word. Chapter 152. Chapter 152. I'm sorry, I still think it's better not to let your dream come true. Lee Baiken could even smell the plastic smell of this gift. And Sunian continued, when you listen to this song, can it represent my thoughts? As long as you put this thing next to you, it can tell you my feelings all the time. As the saying goes, I believe if you listen, you might be able to fall in love with me. Ha ha ha, this thing is played on a loop in this office. I think the picture is good when I think about it. Your thoughts are really special. Lee Baiken put the box next to him. Since you said so, I also want to know if you can make me fall in love with you if you put this thing next to me. Sunian's eyes widened immediately. This guy can't, really. Lee Baiken raised his head and directly met Sunian's gaze. You always said that I didn't give you a chance. Now, I can give you a chance. If the old man is looking for trouble for me, then you can't talk nonsense. Sunian. Is this a ghost opportunity? This man is really enough. Sunian originally wanted to stop it. After all, this was indeed a bit embarrassing, but this guy actually said that, so he is not to blame. Baiken, you are so kind to me, you actually kept this gift with you. You licking dog, if I don't let you lose face today, I am not Sunian. The corners of Lee Baiken's mouth raised slightly. Although Sunian knew that Lee Baiken was ruthless. But Sunian was destined to be disappointed. Because they only need to come to the office to report work, or if they have something to do. As long as the visitor just asks. Lee Baiken would take the initiative to explain that this was Sunian's intention for him. At this time, Sunian could only keep smiling. The society is dead. Although the people who come here are not ordinary people, people who are a little curious will search, her face, her face. You must know that she is the future president of the Lee Group and the head of the Lee family. Now that she has lost her face like this, what will happen in the future? How can she convince the public? When Sunian was going crazy, Lee Baiken looked at what he had found using the photos he had just taken. A gift that will make your boyfriend cry. Haha, Sunian who is 25 is okay, there are also 9.9. He closed the phone and looked at Sunian aside. Sunian, now I think people outside really believe in our relationship. Sunian. She was sure now. My own reputation is completely ruined. Who knew Lee Baiken would actually do this? She thought Lee Baiken would throw things, even her, out. After all, even if Lee Baiken doesn't think this thing is old-fashioned, he will still be angry when he sees this thing is cheap, but this Lee Baiken actually doesn't act according to common sense. This time not only did Lee Baiken not get angry. Instead, Sunian was angry. Sunian continued to maintain an elegant smile. Hey, it's a pity that it's fake. If our relationship as husband and wife was really good, then I might be able to wake up laughing even when I sleep. I'm sorry, I still think it's better not to let your dream come true. When he said this, Lee Baiken paused, looked at Sunian seriously and said, I don't want to be scared by your laughter in the middle of the night. Awake. Sunian. What do you mean by not wanting to be woken up by my laughter? Can this Lee Baiken speak? End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The vicious female supporting character's character collapsed after her voice was eavesdropped. Author, R.O. Which John Word. Chapter 153. Chapter 153. Don't you think the singing gift you gave me is not nice? Sunian originally just wanted to make a prank. But it was obvious that she had not thought about the consequences. For the next week, she heard, for the rest of my life, the wind and snow will be you, and the plainness will be you. Let's not talk about it for a moment. Wouldn't Lee Baiken find it annoying? It was the song when she left Lee Baiken's office. Because the news that she gave Lee Baiken this gift spread, and now everyone in the company is talking about it. She can hear it wherever she goes. It really annoyed Sunian to death. After Lee Baiken finished processing a document, he subconsciously looked in the direction of Sunian. Immediately I saw Sunian's helpless look. He stood up and walked to Sunian. What's wrong? Are you feeling uncomfortable? Sunian raised her eyes and looked at him. What is going on with this guy? Why does this guy seem to be deaf? Is it true that he can't hear at all? So annoying. Lee Baiken is indeed a little annoyed. But when he felt annoyed, he took a look at the woman Sunian and suddenly felt no longer annoyed. Especially when she is so helpless now. If you feel uncomfortable, then you can continue to lie here and rest, and I will go out by myself. After Sunian heard this, his eyes suddenly lit up and he sat up immediately. If you go out to socialize, then you don't have to hear this ghost music. Ah, now as long as I don't hear this music, I'm willing to stay. No, no, how could I be uncomfortable? I was just sleepy and wanted to rest with my eyes closed. Baiken, you are going to socialize. If you want to go socializing somewhere, I will go with you. Lee Baiken immediately walked to Lee Baiken. Next to him, he smiled and took Lee Baiken's hand. Lee Baiken didn't refuse, and just let her hold his arm. But when they were about to reach the door, they stopped. Sunian saw Lee Baiken stopped and planned to subconsciously ask him if he didn't take anything. As a result, I heard Lee Baiken say, by the way, I looked at you today, and I feel that you are a little absent-minded. It seems that you are annoyed. What are you upset about? Sunian. Don't you think the singing gift you gave me is not nice? Sunian. Sunian was certainly not stupid. Of course she understood that this guy was just waiting for her to complain, just to see her slap in the face. Humph, the vicious dog-licking male supporting actor wants to see me slap myself in the face, haha, it's impossible even in my dreams. I don't think so. Baiken, don't you think my gift is bad? I saw you putting that thing aside these days. I thought you liked it, but I didn't expect you. Good chance. I could just use this opportunity to throw the thing away. I really don't want to hear the words for the rest of my life. The wind and snow will be yours, and the plainness will be you. Now I really feel that whenever I hear these words, I feel sick, super sick. Sunian immediately let go of Lee Baiken. But just as she let go, Lee Baiken grabbed her hand and pulled her back. You misunderstood, I'm not bothered by it. After all, you bought this for me, wasn't it just to make me fall in love with you, you? I haven't fallen in love with you now, and your goal has not been achieved. If I are really tired, then you may sue me in front of the old man again. Then, Sunian saw the expression "Do you think I don't know what you are up to" on Lee Baiken's face. She really has no scheming intentions. End of this chapter. The vicious female supporting character's character collapsed after her voice was eavesdropped. Author, R.O. Wich Jong Word. Chapter 154. Chapter 154. Isn't it just a seed? You're so stingy that you didn't give it to me. Sunian didn't expect it. Lee Baiken actually took her to the hospital to visit Wang Ling. As soon as they entered the ward, Wang Ling immediately got up and planned to get out of bed. Sunian was also a mother in her previous life, so when she saw Wang Ling like this, she quickly walked a few steps to Wang Ling and said, "Don't move around in your current situation." Wang Ling felt a little guilty when she saw Sunian looking so concerned. She learned about things on the internet. As soon as I found out, I wanted to call Sunian or clarify directly. But she asked her husband Fei Quan to contact her, but the reply he got was that she should take good care of the pregnancy and not worry about anything else. The more this happened, the more guilty Wang Ling felt. Now that Sunian is here, she can just take advantage of this opportunity. Wang Ling then held Sunian's hand. "Madam, I'm really sorry for you. If it weren't for me, then the internet." But before Wang Ling finished speaking, she was interrupted by Sunian. "Mrs. Fei, you can't say that. Don't feel guilty about this matter. This has nothing to do with you. You must know that some things will happen to him, but it's just an opportunity." Sunian's expression was very serious when he spoke. Wang Ling looked at Sunian's eyes and wanted to say something, but she didn't know what to say. Do you believe it? Do you believe that I appeared there on purpose? To gain your trust and get your husband to side with me? To make it easier for me to seize power? When Sunian said this, Fei Quan next to him looked at Li Baikan nervously. He really didn't expect that Sunian would be so courageous. Fei Quan has been in the company for so many years, but he clearly knows that Li Baikan has deep intentions. If Li Baikan really listens, but the smile on Li Baikan's face has not changed at all, and he looks at the two women with calm eyes. Don't believe it, Wang Ling's eyes were full of determination. This firm look really made Sunian feel a little guilty. After all, she is really like this. It's fine if you don't believe it. Why are you feeling uncomfortable? You have to know that the most important thing for you right now is the child in your belly. Sunian reached out and touched Wang Ling's belly. Nothing is as important as your child. It's been 7 months now, and in the middle and late stages, you have to be more careful. Every move in the middle and later stages is related to the child. It's like if you are in a bad mood, you will have no appetite for food. If you have no appetite and can't eat much, your child will have no nutrition. Li Baikan watched Sunian chattering about pregnancy information to Wang Ling. He couldn't describe the tenderness in her eyes in words. Li Baikan has never doubted that Sunian is a good mother. After all, she really wanted to give birth to the child named Mo Bao all the time. From the look of you, my wife seems to like children very much. If that's the case, why don't you hurry up and have a child? As soon as these words came out, Sunian's expression changed. Don't I want it? Obviously this licking dog doesn't cooperate, isn't it just a seed? So stingy that you wouldn't give it to me. I'm really angry. Why don't you just go back and I'll knock Li Baikan out, and then force him to get the seeds first? Li Baikan coughed lightly. This made Sunian even more unhappy. Ded. Cough whatever you want. End of this chapter. The vicious female supporting character's character collapsed after her voice was eavesdropped. Author, R.O. Wich Jong Word. Chapter 155. Chapter 155. Baikan, can you give me a child? Wang Ling realized that she had said the wrong thing when she finished speaking. As Fei Quan's wife, of course she knows some things. This made Wang Ling feel a little annoyed. She was really stupid for 3 years after being pregnant for 3 years. How come she couldn't speak clearly enough to actually say such a thing? But just when Wang Ling was anxious, Sunian said, I want it too. I also want to have a lovely child. It's best to be a replica of my beloved. Even if my beloved is not by my side, go if I am busy with other things, then when I look at my child, I will also think of him and feel that he is by my side. After saying this, Sunian sighed softly. This made Wang Ling feel even more sorry for Sunian. Before, Wang Ling only heard that Sunian had used many tricks to marry Li Baikan. She was still a little contemptuous of this woman, but now Wang Ling just feels sorry for Sunian. Madam, you can't say that children are all about fate, and sometimes fate may come. Well, don't call me wife. After all, we are now friends of life and death. Calling me like this is a bit too distant, so just call me by my name. Wang Ling froze when she heard this. Is this okay? Then she went to see her husband. Of course, that's what I said, there's nothing else that can't be done. Wang Ling nodded when she saw her husband nodding. Sunian then repeatedly gave many instructions before leaving with Li Baikan. In the process of walking, Sunian Zhen is getting more and more depressed. Mo Bao, what method can mommy use to help you give birth? God, how far do you want to torment me? Just let me be reborn. It's okay to torment me like this. You can give me the calligraphy treasure at least. Calligraphy and calligraphy. Sunian was so addicted to calligraphy that she almost hit someone. Fortunately, Lee Baikin had quick eyesight and quick hands, and pulled her into his arms. How about you wish the headlines tomorrow morning were that you knocked someone over in the hospital? Sunian, who was originally in a bad mood, felt even worse after hearing these words. Immediately pushed Lee Baikin away. Such behavior made Lee Baikin couldn't help but laugh. Baikin, can you give me a child? Forget it, just ask your child to try it, no more ink marks. Looking at this dog-licking look, I really feel that this guy is getting more and more out of breath. I actually know that you may never fall in love with me in your life. Can you be a little kinder to me, just a little bit, give me your child, so that I will miss you a little in this life, don't be like this to me cruel. I just saw Wang Ling looking forward to her and her husband's child so much. I was really envious. I have never been so envious of anything. Baikin, you know that as the daughter of the Su family, I have been the only one who has been with me since I was a child. If you want it, anything will appear in front of me in the shortest possible time. Sunian burst into tears when she said this. Ha ha ha, I think my acting skills have improved again. I am like this. I feel that what I say will make those who hear it sad and cry. And Lee Baikin took a step towards Sunian. Have you ever envied anything? If I remember correctly, it seems that you were envious of the models in the magazine yesterday and that they have better figures than you. Next time you tell lies, you think about it, what did you say? Sunian. Lee Baikin couldn't help but knock her on the forehead when he saw her like this. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The vicious female supporting character's character collapsed after her voice was eavesdropped. Author, R.O. Wich John Word. Chapter 156. The first sentence of chapter 156 is a lie. This is a licking dog. If you don't want to agree, just say so without any such insult. Looking at your expression, why do you think I'm talking nonsense? Think about it for yourself. Did you say that yesterday afternoon? It was probably around 3 o'clock in the afternoon. If you still can't remember, then I can go back and pick you up at that time. Find the magazine and enhance your memory. Sunian was really impressed by what Lee Baikin said. Lee Baikin saw Sunian thinking hard, and the corners of his mouth raised slightly. Sunian thought for a while but still didn't remember. But even if I say it, it cannot be a reason for rejection. My envy and this envy have different meanings, okay. Lee Baikin glanced at her and continued walking outside. But Sunian was still a little unwilling to give up. Okay, I forgot, but I am sincere in other aspects. Your first sentence is a lie. How can I believe your other words? I think you have to show your sincerity in this matter. Sunian. Sunian was so confused that he didn't know what to say. How can this guy be so arrogant? He is really good at arrogance. I really want to slap this guy to death. Sunian's mind showed him grabbing Lee Baikin's clothes and slapping him wildly with his hands. You licking dog, when I get your seed, I will definitely beat you until your own mother doesn't even recognize you. What more sincerity do I need? The process is obviously much more satisfying for you, but you still want me to show sincerity. What the heck with sincerity? Why don't you speak? Lee Baikin took a step towards Sunian, and you kept saying before that you just need to be by my side, but now you say that I will give you a child. If I really agree if you say that, then what are you, a fertility machine? Haha, I am a fertility machine, you are obviously my fertility machine. No, you are not even a fertility machine, you are just a seed-making machine. Lee Baikin. Lee Baikin originally wanted to find this opportunity to tell Sunian what he had wanted to say for a long time. He is not a fertility machine. It can make this woman think less. But why does Lee Baikin feel that she is getting more and more crazy now? What is a seed-making machine? If Mo Bao didn't need you, a dog-licking seed, then could I endure this grievance here? The more I thought about Sunian, the more aggrieved I felt. At this moment, Sunian's eyes suddenly lit up. Because she saw Lan Min coming in a hurry. Lan is here, okay, I'm unhappy, I'm going to be vicious and make Lan even more unhappy. Li Baikan originally just saw that Sunian was a little too bored staying in the office. He happened to hear that Fei Quan's wife was almost stable, so he took her out for a walk. He really didn't expect to meet Lan Min here. Now Li Baikan is really curious if this world is really a novel, then what is the content of this novel? Of course, Lan Min appeared here on purpose. She had been trying to find a way to see Li Baikan these days. In Lan Min's heart, she and Li Baikan had a misunderstanding. It must be Sunian who talked nonsense in front of Li Baikan, so Li Baikan became like this. Even now she can't get into the Li Group's companies. End of this chapter. The vicious female supporting character's character collapsed after her voice was eavesdropped. Author, R.O. Wich Jong Word. Chapter 157. Chapter 157. What should I do if I suddenly have an ominous feeling? Sunian dared to lean into Li Baikan's ear before Lan Min came to his side. Baikan, Lan Min is coming this way. I know you really want Lan Min to care about you. If that's the case, then I can help you, and we will pretend to be pregnant later, so that Lan Zhen will feel a sense of crisis. In this case, if Lan Min really has you in his heart, he will definitely be anxious. Ha ha ha, Li Baikan will definitely agree. As long as Li Baikan agrees, not only can I be in a good mood, but I can also use this matter to cheat in the future. I knew that God still loved me, and he couldn't bear to see me so angry that I was almost dying from this licking bitch. If it were the previous Li Baikan, then he might agree. But now Li Baikan. After hearing Sunian's arrogant thoughts, he directly pulled Sunian into his arms. But you must promise that you are just pretending now, and you cannot threaten me with this matter in the future. If it is a threat, then all funds on your credit card will be frozen. Sunian. Iffier equals iffy you have a bad mind? Could it be that this guy has forgotten a long time ago that he froze all my funds, and now he is still threatening me in this way? But when he thought of this, Sunian saw the look in Li Baikan's eyes. What to do if you suddenly have an ominous premonition? Sunian swallowed subconsciously, and then agreed. Do as you say. After Li Baikan finished speaking, Sunian cleared his throat, and then immediately put on a sweet voice. Baikan, do you think our children will be more like me or more like you in the future? But I think our two children are definitely different. You came to the hospital with me specially today, are you also looking forward to our children? Sunian's voice gave her goosebumps. Sure enough, just as he was about to say hello to Lan Min, when he heard these words, his body suddenly stiffened. Li Baikan wants to have a child with this woman Sunian? It's impossible. You have to know that Li Baikan swore that he didn't fall in love with Sunian. He was very disgusted from the bottom of his heart. Why was he like this? If Li Baikan really fell in love with Sunian, is the relationship between her and Li Baikan really irreversible? In Lan Zhi's heart, if there is anyone in this world who can treat her wholeheartedly, then this person must be Li Baikan. She also tried to fall in love with Li Baikan, but love was really not a matter of fate. But now she really feels that Li Baikan is leaving her. Looking at Lan Min who was struggling in the distance, Sunian secretly yawned. Are you done with the tangle? If I continue to struggle like this, all my flowers will wither. However, this really feels a bit sadomasochistic. The heroine looks at her sweetheart and dare not come forward. She even feels that the gap between herself and her sweetheart is getting bigger and bigger. This kind of powerless plot is used to describe the real situation at this moment. Suitable. What a pity, Li Baikan is just a dog-licking male lead, and a dog-licking male lead is not worthy of romantic love. Li Baikan. But at this moment, the mysterious power appeared again. And it appears very quickly. This time he was not given a chance to react at all. Why did this happen? Why did he not have a chance to react this time? There was no chance to even touch Sunian. Soon, Li Baikan had the answer. Because a voice rang in his ears, "Come, someone has fainted." End of this chapter. The vicious female supporting character's character collapsed after her voice was eavesdropped. Author, R.O. Wich John Word. Chapter 158. Chapter 158. Damn it, why is this licking dog's legs so long? Li Baikan turned around and saw that Lan Min had fallen to the ground. His body was controlled by the power of the plot and pushed Sunian away, heading directly towards Lan Min. Even though he has no control over his body now, he can still feel how rough his action of pushing Sunian away is, and whether it will hurt Sunian. When this worry first arises, Sunian's heartfelt voice sounded in his mind. "Ouch, my waist really hurts." This made Li Baikan's heart suddenly tighten. And Sunian, who was suddenly pushed to the ground, was really in pain. She looked at the man in a hurry. "Damn licking dog, even if you want to find a heroine, don't be so strong. It is said that overbearing presidents have received so-called higher education. Haha, anyway, I can't see what so-called higher education this guy has received. Higher education. Yes, his gentleness belongs only to Lanji." Although Sunian is a vicious female supporting role, she still has a temper. She decided not to show off this time, but to be vicious. She watched Li Baikan pick up Lan Min with distressed eyes. "Jian'er, how are you? How are you? Don't scare me, okay? Jian'er, why did you faint suddenly? Just hold on, I'll call a doctor for you right away. I won't let anything happen to you. I said, as long as I'm here, you will be fine." Li Baikan looked at the woman in his arms and couldn't help but sneered. Because he saw Lan Min's eyelashes move slightly. So he can tell now? This woman is pretending to be dizzy. If he first realized that his body was controlled by the so-called plot, and then got entangled with this orchid, he never thought much about this orchid, but now he really feels disgusted with this orchid. While the body controlled by the plot picked up Lan Min, he held this woman in a panic while looking for a doctor. Sunian finally appeared in his sight. He watched Sunian grit his teeth and get up from the ground with difficulty. Although it was only such a fleeting moment. But he could still feel Sunian's difficulty at this moment. At this moment, Lan Min's voice sounded. "Baikan, is it really you? Didn't I dream? Did I really see you? I thought you would never want me in this life." Li Baikan felt really sick when he looked at the poor woman in his arms. At this moment he really wants to take the initiative. Then he picked up Sunian's body and asked her if she was injured somewhere. As these thoughts became more and more serious, the pain in Li Baikan's heart became more and more serious. But no matter how much pain he felt and how much strength he exerted, he could not regain the initiative of his body. He could only watch his body being controlled by this so-called plot. "Being controlled," he said in a guilty tone, "I'm sorry, Ji'er, I'm really sorry. It's all my fault. It's all my fault for making you like this. I'm sorry, I'm really sorry. I swear, I will never do it again." That's it? If possible, then Li Baikan really wants to die right now. He really doesn't want to be bound by this power and say these disgusting words. Just when this idea appeared, Sunian's voice sounded again. "Damn it, why are the legs of this licking dog so long? Will he die if he walks slower? I am really the most pitiable evil female supporting character, the author didn't even give me a long leg, and now I feel really worthless running like this." This voice made Li Baikan choke. It was as if he was suddenly pulled up when he should have fallen into the abyss. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The vicious female supporting character's character collapsed after her voice was eavesdropped. Author, R.O. Wich Jong Word. Chapter 159. Chapter 159, For the sake of the future child, control your fear. After the doctor finished examining Lan Min, he appeared in front of Lee Baiken. Seeing the doctor's face, Lee Baiken felt an unprecedented panic in his heart. He listened to the plot and controlled himself and asked, "Doctor, what's going on?" Jier was fine, why did he suddenly faint? Sunian, who was panting next to him, smiled when he saw the doctor doing this. This doctor, does every patient sigh? With so many people coming and going in the hospital, he sighs enough times a day. The doctor sighed deeply. "Mr. Lee, I remember I told you that Ms. Lan has kidney failure and must rest well and not have too many mood swings. This will affect her body. After all, Ms. Ian's own physical condition it's not very good, and it's for this reason that I haven't started the kidney transplant operation. The current mood swings are really not good for Lan Min's health. Then what should we do now? Let me tell you, if something happens to Minur, then I will let everyone in your hospital be buried with Minur." These words successfully made the doctor tremble. Su, the melon eater next to him, couldn't help laughing when he saw this scene. Here comes the story again, people from the hospital are always buried with him, the author of the novel almost has a brain problem, doesn't he have any so-called legal common sense? Why do you always think of a modern CEO novel as similar to an emperor? If Mr. BA has this ability, then why not become the emperor? Oh well, if the tyrant becomes the emperor, then it suddenly becomes an ancient novel again. Lee Baiken, who had no control over his body, felt more at ease when listening to Sunian's nonsense. After all, the fact that Sunian can think about all this nonsense proves that nothing happened to Sunian just now. At this moment, Lee Baiken was no longer calm. Because his body controlled by the plot suddenly looked at Sunian. "It's all your fault. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't be like this, you vicious woman." He watched himself walking towards Sunian. Lee Baiken shouted in his heart, "Run, run, Sunian, run, Sunian, you are usually so smart, why don't you run?" "Baiken, what do you mean?" But no matter how Lee Baiken shouted in his heart, Sunian did not move. "Do you really think I dare not touch you?" Sunian looked at the anger of the man in front of him and was not afraid at all. "Of course I don't think so. My life and death are just a matter of your thoughts. Even if Dad is protecting me, what you want to do, Baiken, then nothing can stop it, but I really don't understand where I went wrong." It is impossible to say that Sunian is not afraid. Sunian now clearly felt that the man in front of her really wanted her life. But Sunian knew very clearly that she could not retreat now. "Don't be afraid, don't be afraid, according to the plot, I will be fine. I absolutely can't back down. I managed to stay by Lee Baiken's side. If I am really afraid and run away now, then I won't have the chance to stay by Lee Baiken's side. No, if I don't stay with Lee Baiken, how can I have a chance to give birth to a calligrapher? Sunian, think about Mobile, you can't back down, you can't back down at all." Lee Baiken looked at the woman in front of him, and he could see her fear from her trembling body. But she restrained her fear for the sake of her future child. End of this chapter. The vicious female supporting character's character collapsed after her voice was eavesdropped. Author, R.O. Wich Jong Word. Chapter 160. Chapter 160. How sick is this author to be able to come up with such a plot? You make me so angry, what do you think is wrong with you? The huge roar made Sunian's body tremble. "I'm so angry. All I'm doing now is to make Lan Min care about you and feel how important you are to her." Sunian paused deliberately after saying this, and then continued, "In order to stay with you by your side, willing to be your pawn, willing to win the heart of this woman Lan Min, do these things, Do you know how much my heart hurts? Do you think I don't know? For my sake, you are actually deliberately angry with Pyre. You clearly know that Pyre's health is not good. Now the more Lee Baikan watches Sunian go further, the more Lee Baikan becomes afraid. Afraid of what if his body controlled by the plot did something to hurt Sunian. But I'm doing this all for you, Baikan, can you be a little fair to me? Don't blame me for everything. Moreover, Lan Min's health is not good to begin with. In addition, even if I agreed to the kidney I donated it to Lan Min, what else do you want to do? Do you think that if you donate, you are doing a good deed? It will also wash away the sins on your body. Sunian, who had completely entered the role of a vicious female supporting role, almost broke through. What the hell? Sin, what plot is this? What does this guy mean? Lee Baikan was also speechless. You have done so many evil things. If you don't do something good, God will not let you go. Sunian, haven't you ever heard that there is a standing 3 feet above your head? These words made Sunian subconsciously think about his identity and whether he had done anything harmful to nature in his life. But after going through it again, Sunian immediately came to a conclusion. No. Let me go, what's going on? I can't keep up with the crazy speed of this Mary Sue plot. Wouldn't it be evil in Lee Baikan's eyes if I licked him like a dog? Liubi, can the plot of this Mary Sue be updated like this? It's true that each generation becomes stronger than the previous generation. How sick is this author to be able to come up with such a plot? What evil thing did I do, Baikan? Even if you are my beloved and the person I regard as my life, if you don't tell me why you are here today, then I won't just let it go today. I am really curious about what this guy can say. I really want to know if he can refresh my outlook on life. Just when Sunian was curious, Lan Min's weak voice rang out, Baikan, please stop quarreling. Don't quarrel because of me. After Lan Min's voice sounded, Sunian was inexplicably relieved when he saw the man in front of him making no sound. Lee Baikan, who was trapped in his body, is in a much better mood now. Jianur, why did you come out? Your body is already like this, why do you still come out? Lan Min said with a worried look, I heard you guys quarreling, so I came over to take a look. Baikan, I don't want you to continue to quarrel because of me. If you really choose to live a good life with Sunian, then just don't quarrel, Baikan, I will support you no matter what you do, after all, the most important thing to me is your happiness. Jianur, what are you talking about? How could I choose this woman? I feel so uncomfortable. My aunt is here. I am in a battle today. Please give me your recommendation vote so that I can regain my health. End of this chapter.